this work? Kind of. Well, we only to try it, yeah? Okay. So this title, Gauging the Void, for me represents the creative process. And so the talk I'm giving today is kind of different from the normal artist presentations I've usually done. So this is the first time I attend this, so bear with me. I've been thinking about my influences and my background and how ideas come about and what kind of things, life events, or even just moments influence us and as artists give us ideas to develop new work. And from my point of view, that is often very connected to a certain feeling or observing a certain emotional tension between people. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, and this is not going to be a large kind of autobiographical lecture, but this is actually the first time I show this picture. These are my parents. This is probably about 2 months after I'm born. He's around 20, she's 16. And notice, and this is because I'm talking about how we notice these things around us. Notice how they're standing, how her hands are kind of tight. There's not much intimacy there necessarily. It's a little bit troubled, I feel, this moment. And this one. I've always been fascinated by these transitions between certain life events and how and how human beings and I guess this is the title of the lecture where that comes in. This void, and you can call it the distance between you and the other, or the inner, let's say, I wouldn't call it emptiness or void. I don't mean it as a negative thing. I mean it as this unfathomable, ungraspable lump inside, if you will. And sometimes I feel that creativity stems from those moments where you actually feel something happening. And I definitely, it's a yawn, not a scream. It could, but still, there's a certain uncomfortable. It's new. It's a new situation. And you know, there are some happy pictures from my childhood. Don't worry. But I like the fact that even really young children can have this gaze, almost like they're looking into emptiness or contemplating something, contemplating their situation inside in this world. And then I saw this one. It's the same one, same gaze. It's kind of, you know, funny, interesting to say, to observe these two moments, and this need to connect, and this space, and who are you and who's the other. So this was just an introduction because I feel it goes in a full circle, perhaps I should call it spirals. I feel that often you're going through certain perhaps life phases, or even in my work, I feel that it's not far from a straight line, but then you go and touch on these points again and again, but from a slightly different vantage point. Time has passed, you see things differently. But I guess ever since I started working with sculpture or glass, and this work is this is from my bachelor degree show. I was really occupied with these moments, and I wonder, did I actually feel moments as a child, and do we carry them with us? And then is that how we process, as artists sometimes we process our work? It is two humans, but the idea was that it's not an aggressive moment. It's meant to be a human. I envisioned someone just standing waiting for the bus, but silently exploding from inside without anyone seeing it. And I felt that it wasn't meant to be either male or female. It was meant to be just the human being as such. It wasn't so much a question of gender for me. It was more about humanity. And glass, that's how glass came into the picture for me, because I felt that I could show the inner veins, I could show the hollow space, and I could show the spaces. I remember the spaces in between those were really important, to find that moment where they were not totally separated, but they were still in progress. So this piece is simply called The Explosion. Later on, while I was studying, I went on to do this work. And again, it's about the void. It's about inside that heavy-looking sculpture. It's hollow with actually with another figure inside, upside down. And in the background there's a head, and I called it Fossil of Memory. So it's commenting on family, about absence and presence, about the contrast of the translucent and the totally impenetrable type of surface like cement there on the left. And I wrote here earlier. So these moments have been an ongoing theme in my work. How are we connected? How do we determine our boundaries both within ourselves and towards the outside world? This work, which is part of the series Fossil of Memory, examines family relations and the concept of frozen time and space, creating a hollow where movement fossilizes and memories of past generations create a bridge between the different states of fossilization. From stone to hollow gaps, movement and emotions leave traces defying the clean slate of tabula rasa. Now, as I was working with this work, I came across an article in, I think it was Scientific American, and that's another important factor, I think, the serendipity of allowing yourself to just wander and explore. And I came across this image of a retinal photograph made by Willy Kuhn. How many know about this experiment? Heard of it? Yeah. It's very interesting. And so basically Willy Kuhn, and I had this all written down, and I forgot things, but I do remember. Just don't ask me for complete details. So Willy Kuhn in the 1860s somethings, he discovered the function of rhodopsin in the bottom of our eyes. And rhodopsin is basically our eyes, or visual red, which is it's sometimes called, basically makes our eyes function like photographic plates. Every second or fraction of a second, every time. So you've probably all experienced going out in the snow after being in a dark room. You'll see like color. That's because there's too much visual red in the bottom of your eye. Now he wanted to prove that this chemical was reacting towards light and shadow. And so he did an experiment. front of a window, then took off the bag, off with the head, out with the eye, developed it in alum, or fixated basically, and that's the image. So he had proven that the image was basically transferred as a chemical reaction in the bottom of the eye. And he went further. He did a human optogram. So that was a prisoner who was executed, but he could never, and this was in the 1860s, so why not? So he took, this is the image that came, and he never figured out what this was. But I was so fascinated by the fact that we as humans, before our brain connects with what we're seeing, or before the nervous system comes into play, that we have a very physical image in our eyes. And so I was interested in capturing those moments. Again, it's capturing these moments and these spaces in between. And so I made this installation. It's called Last Division. And so you could say that each of one of those bowls is like a reflection of an optograph, a retinal image. And it was interesting with this process, because I was fascinated. I actually did a lot of research, and I was wondering, what do people see when they are dying? What is the last image? What is... I had some friends working in a hospital, and they allowed me to go around with a camera, and I wasn't looking at the patients, I was looking at the ceiling. I was thinking, even those angles we're at in that situation, we are looking up at the ceiling, we're seeing the leaky faucet, or we're not seeing down here. And I was really fascinated by that, and I took a lot of photographs, but all of them were just too detailed. And so I ended up, and I actually usually don't talk about that, but I actually ended up finding war photographs from various sources, but cutting them up so that there would only be a fraction, a detail that does not make. If you know about it, you will know that that's a train track. But for me, it was more important that it was this feeling of having something cut in time and preserving again that moment. And I also went to and did a recording of the eye from the side, and kind of made it more abstract, in the sense, not abstract, but it was interesting because I slowed the motion down. This is a detail, and it was larger than life, and it's basically recording that moment, that blink, the lines of a blink. And there's actually a beautiful passage from Company of Samuel Beckett, where he writes, "There is, of course, the eye, filling the whole field, the hood slowly down, or up if down to begin, the globe, all pupil, staring up, hooded, bared, hooded again, bared again." So, and I find that when these are actually not, these images are kind of chronological, but not quite. And especially from now on, it's going a little bit back and forth in time. But I continued collecting eyes after that, and I continued thinking about these moments. So in 1999, on the 31st of December, I went through a bunch of newspapers and cut out all the ice and collected them because I was collecting that certain moment before the millennium, but also just looking at the difference between, there were both movie stars and criminals and politicians represented, but taken out of context, there were just these fragments. And as I was developing this, I also thought about the dreamer and how we shut our eyes and how we kind of want to escape from that. So I started developing that on the floor. You'll see it again later. And since I want to talk a little bit about my influences, there's that video on the wall. It's actually a window in the background. And again, I haven't done this before, but there is music has always played a really important part for me. I was grown up with a lot of music. My parents are both. My father is a composer, and I think I was just exposed to a lot of music growing up. So I've always been interested in those kind of psychological effects you can get that way as well. And so I came across, and I wanted to include more, but I realized it would be a complete different lecture if I did that. But I'm including this, and this is not how I presented this work, but it's kind of splicing the music I was fascinated by at the time and those images. Vision series, which looks at the barriers we put up and the way in which we protect ourselves, while at the same time remaining open. The vision remains with the observer, and as I cast eyes into glass cubes, they became dreamers, allowing ourselves to close our eyes, hope, and dream. So I did this series where, on one hand, you have these images of half-protected, half-open humans, and then the dreamers with closed eyes. And as I was, and this is kind of back and forth in the sense that as I was contemplating these things, I started thinking, I had been thinking about these protective barriers and how without actually holding something, you kind of contain it. And again, it's about the void that I'm always circling around. So instead of actually grasping something, you're kind of defining its borders by making them visible, kind of containing the invisible in a sense, I guess. And so these hands were made for an exhibition I did in an old leprosy hospital in Bergen. And when I did that exhibition, I was concerned about, well, first, one of the medical conditions when you get leprosy, one of the first things that can happen is that you lose sensation in your hands. And so, but I was in this particular place, there were a lot of specimens, there were a lot of medical articles about the condition, but I was thinking about those moments in a life. Some of the people living there lived there their whole life, and it's called St. Jørgen's Hospital in Bergen, where Amorier Hansen discovered the bacteria causing leprosy in 1873. The hospital is probably one of the best preserved of its kind in Northern Europe. Some patients lived there for many years, as in the case of Olina Kristinsdatter, who was admitted in 1895, 27 years old, living there until her death in 1946, then 78 years old. I wanted to commemorate their life as human beings that lived, loved, and worked, experiencing moments between moments, as we all do. This is why I cast glass hands in positions showing not gestures, but the positions we take in our everyday life as human beings, depicting the split second when we are unaware of ourselves. As I exhibited the hands outside the hospital, I observed the moment in itself as a specimen of human emotion, surfaces, and time. And as I was working in the hospital, I found out I started thinking about the previous project of Last Division, and this longing. And I think that void can also be a sort of, it can be a certain, even a desire or longing, a negative space. So I decided there was a disused room that had the floor removed because they had to do reconstruction. So I used this opportunity and I made this. In the end, to only use furniture that I found on site and had been stowed away up in the attic. So I took it down again, placed these hands around also as just these. What do you do when you sit down without thinking? What is the unconscious moment of where you're in between these moments in life? You're not doing like that. You're just being, I guess. And on that note. I did this video. This is actually taken at the market in Oslo, and I was so fast. This woman was just talking to someone next to her, and kind of pinching her arm as she was doing it. And again, I was so fascinated by these type of unconscious points and the pressing of the skin and just that contact. And that's kind of what I find inspiring. It might not be that I use these things, they develop, and sometimes it takes a long time, sometimes it takes years to go through the emotional spectrum and then analyze it, and sometimes it seems that it's not even analyzed. I do something and I realize, oh, I see, that's what it was about. This might be brewing in the back of my head and then I make something, and then I can't make sense of it until afterwards, and I think that's fine. And so I would say music and literature has been important for me, and so and failure has been quite important as well. To be able to, and when I talk about void and failure, I'm not talking of it as a negative thing. It's allowing myself to be that person and to experience these emotions. Have you read that one? So this is kind of an exhibit. I never show this picture. This is because I didn't feel it wasn't finished. It was again trying to capture a moment where things are in either falling apart or influencing each other. And that's a drawing of the bubble chamber up there, and a big Passiver moon-like thing. Because I wanted to be falling apart. It wasn't very successful, and that's fine. Which kind of leads me to this experiment. I'm sure some of you have seen this. This is a profile gauge on the left there. It's another picture here. It's this machine, because I wanted to figure out the boundaries between people and me in particular in this case, and putting a line to this surface. And glass is fascinating that way, that it has this ability to depict both the inside and the outside at once, but also be incredibly fragile. So what was important for me with this machine was that it's not like taking a 3D scan. It's incredibly primitive, and each time I pushed up against those glass rods, sometimes I would push harder, sometimes not as much. And so it's like a topographical map from my feet. This machine goes up in 3-inch increments, and they were really inaccurate, and that was this motion. And I felt that that's so typical of how we as humans don't always realize what kind of effect we're having or what kind of impression we're making. So this piece we called impression, or the first impression from the measuring device for negative space. So that's the measuring device. And then this is the first attempt at hanging this thing here on the left, all based on that drawing. And this is what it turned out to be like in the end. And so you see each layer has this point. It's hollow in the inside, and the shadow actually sometimes becomes more concrete than the piece itself. It kind of disappears, and those glass rods are incredibly fragile. And every time I show this piece, I have to remake sections of it because it just falls apart. But that's part of it. That's what's so beautiful about it. That it's kind of a monument to human nature, if you will, that always needs to be taken care of, but is still so. It was a pretty empty feeling when I made this, and I don't know exactly how to explain, but I think those first pictures I show explain a little bit of that. These moments in life where you don't know where your borders are, and where you don't know what the attachment between people is, where it is, or if there is any. And on a lighter note, this is the packaging system. It's kind of fun. I think that's going to be next project, is to actually make a work about how just the frame around the rings. Once even the figure has disappeared, and you just have the container left. It's kind of, I enjoy figuring these things out. So, progressing from there, and this may then explain some of my most recent work, which is this piece, and it's also called Impression. And it was made through making hundreds of these glass spheres and then placing them on top of myself. That I made like a, I don't want to call it a coffin, it was a container of some sort. And again, I was looking at those boundaries. Again, I was gauging the void. I was looking at the pressure, but I was also thinking about those fragmented points of vision these spheres create, so that you have no control. Then suddenly there's a focus point on some mole here, and then the border is totally out of focus. And I like that. I like that that there were these undefined areas, and but also the fact that it looks pretty light, but it was incredibly heavy. And doing this performance was a pretty physically exhausting, to say the least. But I knew that, and I don't know if it's important that it comes through in the work, but I think there's a certain depth there that then comes to. I like that there's this contrast between the light and the heavy. And I think, so going from here and speaking a little bit about what my next project, or what I'm working on, is actually going back to that beginning again. And so I wonder if I can do a loop here now. If I go, let's see, close your eyes. Okay. You work. Nope. Is this right? To these kind of moments where I'm looking at those spaces, and then maybe relieving some of that pressure from that last piece I showed, in the sense that analyzing more the physical nature of that space between human beings, or animals. And I think I'll just end by talking about, or actually reading a little thing from Non-Lecture 5 by E. Cummings. And he's talking about this balancing act. And I always feel strange when we say we are artists, but I guess we all are in life, if nothing else. And it's a dialogue here between him and me. So him, damn everything but the circus, to himself. And here I am, patiently squeezing four-dimensional ideas into two-dimensional stage, when all of me, that's anyone or anything, is in the top of a circus tent. Pause. Me. I didn't imagine you were leading a double life. And right under my nose, too. Him. Unhearing, proceeds contemptuously. The average painter, sculptor, poet, composer, playwright is a person who cannot leap through a hoop from the back of a galloping horse, make people laugh with a clown's mouth, orchestrate 20 lions. Me. Indeed. Him. To her. But imagine a human being who balances 3 chairs, one on top of another, on a wire 80 feet in air, with no net underneath, and then climbs into the top chair, sits down, and begins to swing. Me. Shudders. I'm glad I never saw that. Makes me dizzy just to think of it. Him. I never saw that either. Me. Because nobody can do it. Him. Because I am that. But in another way, it's all I ever see. Him, me. What is? Him, pacing up and down. This. I feel only one thing. I have only one conviction. It sits on three chairs in heaven. Sometimes I look at it with terror. It is such a perfect acrobat. The three chairs are three facts. It will quickly kick them out from under itself and will stand on air. And in that moment, because everyone will be disappointed, everyone will applaud. Meanwhile, some thousands of miles over everyone's head, over a billion empty faces, it rocks carefully and smilingly on three things, on three facts. On, I am an artist, I am a man, I am a failure. It rocks and it swings and it smiles and it does not collapse, tumble or die, because it pays no attention to anything except itself. I feel I'm aware every minute, every instant. I watch this trick. I am this trick. I sway, selfish and smiling and careful above all the people. And always I am repeating a simple, dark and little formula. Always myself mutters and remutters a trivial, colorless, microscopic idiom. I breathe and I swing and I whisper. An artist, a man, a failure. Must proceed. Me. This thing or person who is you, who does not pay any attention to anyone else. It will stand on air, on air, above the faces, lives, screams, suddenly, easily, alone. How about the chairs? The chairs will all fall by themselves down from the wire and be caught by anybody, by nobody, by somebody whom I don't see and who doesn't see me, perhaps by everybody. Me. Maybe yourself, you away up ever so high, will hear me applaud. Him, looking straight at her, smiles seriously. I shall see your eyes. I shall hear your heart move. Me, because I shall not be disappointed like the others.